106 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, we're moving on to the Michigan State Spartans, and this is a Michigan State team that surprised everybody last year, and I mean everybody. It was a team that won 10 games in Mel Tucker's second year, went to a New Year's Six Bowl, won that New Year's Six Bowl game, and had some of the most exciting players in the country playing for this team. However, there are some problems for Michigan State coming into 2022, including some areas, especially on the defensive side, that they got to get better and improve, and a lot of talent on that offensive end and some on the defensive end as well, leaving this program. So can Mel Tucker lead Michigan State to another 10-win season in 2022, or will this be the year that Michigan State takes a step back? Welcome. What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I am doing all 131 teams this college football offseason. That means I'm doing your favorite team, so go ahead, excuse me, my voice is still not where I'd like it to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you guys know when that video gets uploaded. And guys, I'm especially Michigan State fans in this video, but to all my fans out there that watch any of my videos, you guys are going to know your teams a lot better than me. So feel free to leave anything you want to in the comment section down below. Maybe I missed something, you want to add something, go ahead and leave it down there. Michigan State is my third ranked team in the Big Ten coming into 2022, and there's absolutely not enough reasons why they are at this position. I mean, this was just a phenomenal team last year. 10 wins season, 11 wins, including a New Year's Six bowl game win with a game-sealing pick six. It was a very, very good team last year. But again, however, there are problem areas, and we'll talk about some of them later, but I'm going to address one of them now. On the offensive side of things, around 430 points per game, wow, that would be a lot of points. Around 430 yards per game and around 32 points per game. But on the defensive end, so again, solid numbers on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, this was one of the worst pass defenses in the country, period. Allowed almost 340 yards per game through the air. A big reason why they were the worst defense in the Big Ten in terms of yards per game allowed, with 455 yards per game allowed. Those two losses, yeah, they came against Ohio State and Purdue, the two best passing offenses from last season. Could have lost to another good passing offense like Maryland last year as well. Might even do it this year, who knows, and we'll talk more about that later. But this is the Michigan State team that their losses made sense, right? Losing to Ohio State, losing to Purdue, those are two of the best passing offenses in the Big Ten, and when you have one of the worst pass defenses in the country, yeah, makes sense why you would lose there, but that pass defense has to improve. They did a good job keeping teams out of the end zone, though, only allowing around 26 points per game. So good on that part, but please, Michigan State, improve that passing defense. It's got to get better. When you look at talent off this Michigan State team that is gone, of course, the biggest name that is going to be gone off this team is Kenneth Walker. 1,636 yards and 18 touchdowns last year. He was an absolute beast of a running back, the former Wake Forest prospect. He was a beast last year for Michigan State. Connor Hayward got off this team as well, along with wide receiver Jalen Naylor, who, if he could have stayed healthy, probably would have had a 1,000-yard receiving year, but still had around 700 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. Still, very, very good stat line. They lose a lot of offensive linemen off this team as well, as you see there. And then on the defensive end, Jacob Panasiuk, and again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced names, but had 7 sacks last year, was a very, very good part of that defensive line. That was one of the better run defenses in the Big Ten, but you also lose guys like Noah Harvey, Drew Beasley, who had 5.5 sacks, did Beasley. A couple guys off of that rush defense that are gone as well. And then in the defensive back group, you got Kalon Gervin and Michael Dowell. Couple guys that are gone in that regard. That could have helped improve that pass defense, but now are no longer on this team. What you do have coming back, though, is your starting quarterback. Peyton Thorne is coming back. 3,240 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions last year. Peyton Thorne, I would like to see one thing from him this year. Improve the interception numbers, and I think that is a very, very good quarterback right there. I think there's a huge difference between throwing 10 interceptions in a year and then throwing 6 or 7. If he can cut back on the interception numbers, maybe even reduce them by just 2 or 3, I think you're going to see Peyton Thorne could be a much improved quarterback this year. Again, that's still a very good quarterback from last year. I just want to see him cut back on the interceptions a little bit. Otherwise, very good player. Running backs, they got Jalen Berger and Jarek Broussard coming in from the portal. Berger from Wisconsin, Broussard from Colorado. So we will see what happens there in the running back room. I don't expect it to be as good as Kenneth Walker was last year. However, who knows? Maybe those two guys come in and put on a lot of production. Leading receiver Jaden Reed is back, 1,026 yards and 10 touchdowns for him. Trey Mosley, Keon Coleman coming back as well as Daniel Barker. He's a tight end transfer, I believe, over from Missouri. So that's a big pickup for Michigan State there. When you look on the defensive side, lots of talent coming back. Xavier Henderson, their leading tackler, is coming back. You got Cal Halliday, who led the team with in interceptions with 2 and returned to both of them for touchdowns. Also guys like Chris Bogle, Jacob Slade, Jeff Pietrowski, Darius Snow, Amir Speed, Angelo Gross. Lots of other talent. Lots of other phenomenal players coming back for this Michigan State team. Definitely expect that pass defense to get better in 2022. Let's look at this Michigan State schedule. You got a couple games against Mid-American teams. That's Western Michigan and Akron. Then you go on the road and play Washington. Now, that's a team that just did not have anything go their way last year. And I expect that to be a much better team. You got Michael Penix coming in from Indiana in the transfer portal. Some other transfers coming in there as well as just some other talent around that Washington Husky team that's coming back. Now, they're not going to have as high of expectations this year as they did last year for obvious reasons. But that's still a Washington team that you should not take lightly, especially on the road. When you look at the Big Ten slate, you got home games against Minnesota, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Indiana, and road games against Maryland, Michigan, Illinois, and Penn State. So let's go ahead and dive into the schedule a little bit, then we'll get into some predictions. Washington, again, that's the interesting non-conference game. It's a team that, again, I think is going to be better in 2022. I do expect Washington to get better and improve. Might even give Michigan State a little bit of a test here, but I'm going to lean towards Michigan State, and you'll see that reflected in my percentages here. But I expect Washington to be a much improved team in 2022, a game that Michigan State cannot take lightly. When you look at the Big Ten schedule, starting out with games on the road. Of course, what games jump out to you on the road? Michigan and Penn State. A couple teams there that, well, quite frankly, are two of the better teams in the Big Ten. Michigan, of course, coming off a playoff berth, won the Big Ten last year. And then for Penn State, this is the team that should be much improved in 2022, and they return a lot of experience in them in that regard as well. So those two games going to be very hard to win. They're both they're two of the toughest environments to play in all of college football. That's the Big House and Happy Valley. Going to be interesting to watch those two games. And then when you look at games at home, Minnesota is the team that is returning a lot of talent and a lot of experience. So that should be a game to watch out for as well. Rutgers, a team that's going to fight. Wisconsin, a team that's loaded on defense. But then the game you're going to circle against Ohio State, who figures to be one of the best two teams in the nation. Michigan State's going to have their hands full when the Buckeyes come into East Lansing. I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook to help me predict the team's record. So if the game is in red, you're probably not going to win. If the game is in orange, you're still probably not going to win. But hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games where you should probably win. But hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. And games in green are games where you should probably win. So again, the games against the MAC, the two opponents from the Mid-American Conference, you should be able to go ahead and win those games fairly simply. But watch out for that game against Washington, which I have in yellow. I do expect Washington to be a much improved team in 2022. That's a game Michigan State cannot take lightly. However, I am going to say that Michigan State wins that game. I think Michigan State's got the better talent. They got the more experience, all that kind of things. And I again, like I said, I do expect that pass defense to get better. They've brought some transfers in to try to help with that as well as having a guy as talented as Xavier Henderson coming back is huge. But again, this is the team that definitely needs to improve that pass defense, and I think will. And they're going to get tested against Washington, but I do think they come out with a win. When you look at some other games in conference play, I got two games in yellow there that are on the road. Michigan and Penn State, again, those are going to be two hard games to win. Michigan game is going to be interesting to watch. Again, Michigan returns a lot of experience, but as does Michigan State. So will Michigan learn from last year's mistakes, or will Michigan State win their second straight? It'll be interesting to watch. The game against Penn State there as well. That's going to be another interesting and fun game to watch. Penn State figures to be much improved coming into this season. That's going to be a game right there with Sean Clifford coming back, another experienced quarterback. Penn State, that run game was not as prevalent last year as it usually is. I expect that to improve. I expect this Penn State defense to still be pretty good. It's going to be an interesting and yet pretty fun game. The home game against Wisconsin as well. That's a team that's got a lot of talent on the defensive end. Braylon Allen back there as well is one of the best running backs in the nation, in my opinion. And he's going to be at that Wisconsin program for quite some time. So this is definitely an interesting schedule here, but there are a couple games I haven't mentioned. I haven't mentioned them for a reason. Rutgers, they're going to be a game where, well, again, you can't count Rutgers out. Michigan State should probably win, but Rutgers is going to be competitive this year. Illinois and Maryland are a couple games on the road that I do have in yellow-green, but I could see upsets happening. Look, Illinois is a team that's very interesting this year, and while I don't think they're going to make a bowl game quite yet, they absolutely could this year, and upsetting Michigan State could be the way that they do that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Michigan State go on the road and maybe struggle with Illinois here a little bit. I think they get the win, but I could see them struggling. Same thing with Maryland. Although what I do have to say is I do think Maryland's going to pull off the upset against Michigan State. They have one of the better passing attacks in the Big Ten, and plain simply, if Michigan State's pass defense does not improve, could be a long day there in Annapolis, Maryland for the Michigan State Spartans. Otherwise, the one game I haven't talked about is the Ohio State game, and I haven't talked about it because it's pretty simple. And it's the thing I've been saying all video long. If Michigan State doesn't improve that pass defense, they are not going to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. With C.J. Stroud, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison, a whole lot of other weapons coming back for that passing attack. That was one of the best passing attacks and just period, one of the best offenses in the nation last year. Michigan State's going to have their hands full. They were slaughtered by that Buckeye team last year. In order for that game to be closer than it was last year, that pass defense has got to get better. All in all, though, I do think that pass defense will get better. I see that Ohio State game being closer. I see Michigan State being very competitive yet again in the Big Ten this year, but I don't think they're going to get as many results as they did last year. I think there are a lot of teams in the Big Ten this year that are going to be pretty good, and some teams that are going to improve as well. I see Michigan State going 8-4 in 2022. That floor being 6-6, that ceiling being 10-2. I think this team can put together another special season, but I think it hinges on Peyton Thorne maybe cutting back the interception numbers a little bit. If Jalen Berger and Jarek Broussard can fill in that gap for Kenneth Walker, maybe even have one of the better running back duos in the nation. And that pass defense has got to get better, and that's the biggest thing. But Michigan State I have is 8-4 in 2022. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, anything you can to help support the channel. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.